change on a daily, and you can see how they just go up and down, up and down, up and down. So that being said, I, I told my clients, like right now we were talking about how we use the 6.5 to do your numbers
Mhm.
as of the day that we did the approval. That would be different today. That's going to be different probably on the day of you going into escrow. Um,
Okay.
so by the time you go into escrow, it'll get to the day where I'm like, okay, we're in escrow now. Let's talk about your rates and lock in your rate because we need to lock it, right? So I feel like I'm very different from probably every single lender I know. When it comes to interest rates, majority of lenders are going to be like, okay, Joanna, so it's 6.5%. Are you good to lock? And then you'll be like, well, yeah, I
Mhm.
guess, that's what you told me from the beginning. So it's the same today. So yeah, sure, let's lock it. Okay. I don't do that. You and I will have another Zoom call because I'm going to give you your rate stack. You're going to see the rates on that day that we're talking about locking, and you're going to see
Mhm.
exactly this. This is exactly where a rate stack is. Lenders don't show this to their clients. And I need you
Mhm.
to, because this is your first time, you need to understand how this stuff works because you're going to refinance later
Yeah.
and then you can ask the right questions in the future. So a rate stack would be when we lenders, we go and price out a deal with any lender, or in this case, with the lender that you're already in escrow with. Um, it's based, like Armando's good at this. Don't tell him I said he will be like, "What's today's rate?" There's no one rate for everybody. Everybody's different. You have a different FICO score than the client I was talking to an hour ago.
Uh-huh.
Like you're buying, a $600,000 home. She was buying whatever. So it's different for everyone. So once we input all of the information, it gives us the rate stack for that client. It's not just one
Mhm.
interest rate, it's a stack of rates. That's why it's called an interest rate stack. So what it does is it gives you what that lender is offering from lowest interest rate to the highest interest rate. And why is it low to high? Because as the lower the rate is, the more costly it's going to be to you. It's going to
Okay.
cost you money. The higher you go on the interest rate, then the credits from the lender start to come in. Now, when everyone is buying, usually we are in middle ground. So we try to find what rate is it going to be where you don't have a cost and there's no credit, right?
Okay.
Unless like there's times, not lately, but there's times where I've had clients where they only had enough for their down payment and a little bit of their closing costs. And so they needed help with like, I don't know, let's say $5,000 to cover all their closing costs. So the only way to
Mhm.
be able to do that would be to get a higher interest rate so that they could get some credit. So for instance, if you look at, let's see, we were saying, let's see, this client needed $5,000 for their, okay. So this client, whoever this is, needed $5,000 to help for their closing costs. They
Mhm.
would have to take an 8% interest rate so that they can get 4,910. See the little minus sign right in front of the dollar sign?
Mhm.
So those are all
Yeah.
credits, why they're minus. So this interest rate will give the client 1793 credit towards their closing cost. This rate is this is that, blah, 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 blah. And as you start moving through the rate stack and you start going up in interest rates, you see that the most of the time the credits towards the closing costs obviously start to get bigger. But that's because I tell my clients, lenders don't do anything for free. I mean, let's be honest, right? So obviously the
Mhm.
higher the interest rate you're taking, then they're going to give you more money. But if you go the
Mhm.
opposite, because you can go the opposite, right? If you have a client, they're like, well, I have all this money that I inherited. I don't know. I want to buy down my rate. I want
So what's the
a five.
difference between like the broker versus a lender?
It's the same thing. Well, not really.
Oh, okay.
So when I talk about like the lender, I'm talking about the bank that's going to do the funding on the loan.
Okay, got it.
Um, so on this, you have a client that says, I don't need a credit I have tons of money. I just want the lowest interest rate. I have $20,000 to pay, to buy down my rate. Okay, well,
Mhm.
Mr. Joe, 5.625 is going to cost you $23,000. Is that what you want? Yeah, that's what I want.
Mhm.
Then that's what we could lock if that's what the client wanted. Now, if it's someone like almost 99.9% of buyers, they want a rate that is not going to cost them too much and it's not going to give them too much credit because they're just fine, which is most of the clients, then we would be at
Mhm.
this 7.375 because that rate is only costing $119.
Okay. And then
But
does the rate end up affecting like the monthly payment?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so we'll do all those numbers, but my point is you get to see what you get, like what you want to choose. I'm not the one telling you this is the rate. Do you want it? Yes or no? When I haven't even really given you all of the information.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Which I shouldn't even say most lenders. I don't think any lender does this. Um,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, you're welcome. No, because you have to be transparent because I don't know, what it is that you want. I know what I would do if it was me, and then
Mhm.
I do give those, that advice or, what I think. Um,
Because
but
it
that's
almost seems like around a 7 is like more of like the middle ground, right?
this is an older one. This was a couple months ago, this one. Like when you're ready, when you're in escrow and you're ready to lock, we're gonna pull the one for that date for you. This is just to kind of give you an idea of what we're gonna do. And then also too, if you were to tell me I want to pay $10,000 for that rate, I'm gonna tell you, okay, well, let's take a minute and let's do a breakdown. So I do a break-even analysis to see how much money you're saving on a monthly basis for what you're paying for that interest rate. So if right now we're at 6.5 and you tell me I'm willing to pay $10,000 for a 6%, I will figure out how much the savings is on your monthly payment and then what the cost is and how long is it going to take for you to recoup those $10,000 with that monthly savings. And just to see if it's actually worth doing.